We're live. So, to ourselves, call to order for the. First item is we get recess for public hearing on the text amendment. To the public to comment. Yes. Raise your right hand. Seriously. Thank you. This is not legal proceedings. You swear to tell the truth? Yes.
I'm gonna hand out just a map here. I'm here to, and I've only got not enough, so.
Oh, give it to them. Maybe we can share.
Yeah, I've got some. It's just an overview. It's about, and the property's been discussed already here, I believe. This is my first time here. So, 23 Cambridge Court being used as an Airbnb. So I know everyone has a right to do with their property as they choose, as the law will allow. So, what I have circled there is all of the houses that have the children. And so the line, the highlighted line you'll see is kind of the meeting point where all of the children all congregate after school downtown. And so when I moved there 4 years ago, that was kind of the allure of the neighborhood. Was it kind of was representative of Calvert City, small, family oriented, everybody knew everybody. So all the kids just kind of run and play. And it's, as of about a year ago, that property is being used as an Airbnb. So it's really changed how things, that driveway is people in and out, different people every few days. And so it's really started to kind of negatively affect a lot of the neighbors. And you got kids. So everybody in the neighborhood kind of knows, there's kids running around. You just watch where you go. Kids are in and out, house to house. All over the neighborhood, and that works really well. But when you have new people every few days, they don't know, what the neighborhood's like. I catch them if I see somebody there. I go up and say, "Hey, there's kids all over." So you're backing out of the driveway, and their driveway actually backs out right into the road where all the kids. It's just a small section with no traffic on it. There's a playground there, so all the kids kind of congregate and play there, and so. We've been really worried with that, trying to keep kids out of the road because we know that the people that are staying there just don't know, they don't know really to watch out for that. So all that being said, if there's nothing that can be done, they have a right to do what their property is and choose. But I'd like to, look into it and see if there's a law preventing this and it's not being enforced. Maybe we could enforce that. Like I said, I think that it's been brought up before, I believe, but this is my first time here. So and I wanted to just kind of give you an overview, let you see kind of the layout of the neighborhood so you can understand the situation and what's going on. That's all I've got. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? And have you checked the subdivision rules?
I don't know. I have not. And I think, have y'all talked about this here?
We don't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, short-term rentals right now, what they're looking at have not actually, they're defined currently in the, correct me if I'm wrong, but the defined definition of short-term rental is also similar or the same as the definition for bed and breakfast.
Well, that's what we're proposing. It's not covered at all right now.
Yeah.
We don't have anything that covers
There's no
the
rule.
VRBO things. And so we know that we're afraid of that will become a bigger issue as we're too close to the lake. It's become, so what we're proposing to the city commission is you handle a rental, short-term rental, VRBO, just like you do with that bed and breakfast. Gives us a little bit more control of what's being done there. Right? So,
And so is that something that's already
we're going to present to the city commission. All going to present to the city commission.
Hell no, that. And,
Anybody? What's the word? Or
John to do the swearing in.
Raise your hand.
Yes, I will tell the truth.
Brady's not the first one.
if he raises right hand. I'll see his left hand, make sure he didn't cross the thing.
Why I'm here is my house is directly connected to this. And it backs, it backs up to the, I went into this subdivision because it was a strict subdivision. Put up with the zoning and everything, just like everybody else. I have a problem with this, with one, because that's a commercial venture in a residential area. It's not on the highway. It's not in the commercial district in there. And any way about it, renting rooms overnight is a commercial venture. And it's in an area, it's a subdivision, which I made a big investment myself in that area. And I want to try to protect it. I don't have any problem with mom. Understand his need to rent. A year-long lease, something like that, so they get to know the community, get it. But basically, that community down there works like a large family. They have evenings out, they have groups in there, the kids go from house to house. Everybody watches the kids, everybody watches each other's house. We have traffic in our back door that we have no clue through that. We've been lucky what has come in. Down there, we haven't had any, problem with that. But, you restrict, you talk about bed and breakfast, whatever. But if you go out here and you're on the highway, and pull in, you don't know who's going by in front. I would never own on the highway. I built off the side of the highway to, to get that feel and go into that area. But I have a problem with it at all up, and I am the joint property owner. But I have a problem with it would be any bed and breakfast, anywhere around in that subdivision. Because it's just a totally different than a residential area. It's not, it's a commercial venture. And it doesn't belong in that at all.
Well, you see the issue we have right now is it's not covered anywhere.
Right.
So we got to do something with it, or
Well, I think it should be
We got-
listed, yeah. that's
we
what
got
I'm
no
saying.
control over it.
I know that you don't, it's not in our listings. And
Right.
I don't even know what, these bed and breakfast, I don't even know what the standards are on there. But a subdivision is totally different.
Well, one of the things that John just said, we don't have any control over the covenant of your subdivision. But I would strongly suggest y'all need to look at your covenant and see what it defines or doesn't allows and doesn't allow, because you'll have more control, but we don't have anything to do with that. We can't control that.
If I turned around and I wanted to open up a cabinet shop in that subdivision,
It's a residential area.
right? That's right. So you're making there's a commercial venture is a hotel.
Well,
So that's about what you got.
Well, you drew a distinction between longer term revenue. So you can.
No,
That's hard.
it is a commercial
It
venture,
is a
but,
commercial business,
the line is
It
the
is a
short term
commercial business.
and it's turning to traffic.
but your logic of applying that it's a commercial business is difficult.
It's a hotel in my backyard.
Because it doesn't work.
We're in our zoning, there's a hotel set in a residential area. It's an overnight rental. That's hotel.
Well, we define a less than 5 rooms as a bed.
That's
By our definition, that's a bed and breakfast. And what you got going on, Bob, is regardless of what we say, that's happening. So you gotta do something.
You don't have anyone other than town. It's a commercial area.
Well, yeah, so far.
Right, that's why I'm here.
Well, that's what we're saying. If we don't do something, right now, we've got no control over Billy Bob when we rent his house tomorrow night. And nobody has any control over it.
I mean, how many of you would want that next to your house?
That's exactly what we're trying to do, is to help the neighbors. If we don't do anything, it's a black hole.
Because even in major subdivisions, covenants, not hardly worth paper written. Because if you look, you have to get every single signature
Right.
for the covenant. So all you have to do is have one that says, oh, let it go. And it's in. But that's different than the city ordinance. You know, I built in the city, I pay the double taxes because I wanted to be in the city for the protection of the city. And it's zoning.
Yeah.
And that's where we got a problem. And I think it's that open end about whether you have it, but when you change that to where it's a daily rental or no long-term rental, if you don't know who's living next door to you, who's coming in and out, who's stopping. I mean, we watch when whoever's having construction, who's coming in and out, where them cars belong. Every one of them watches out for the others in there. And you can do that. And it's totally different. You get a guy in there that's in there for a year, you may wish he wasn't overnight. But you at least know who he is. You at least know who he is. And if your stuff is gone, you might go down there and look in his garage.
At this point, what's on the table, I think we're taking a step in. Taking a step. in
I know where you're headed. I've been there.
And we don't know where it is that we can end up.
And I
We don't know where
understand,
those lines are. So
But that's-
we hear what you're saying.
you know, as an investor next to this thing, I have a problem. And I've put a lot of time, a lot of potential of mine on my property because it was a R1 district. It needs to stay a residential district. Any questions, Mo? Yes. But we're just a sample.
I don't know.
All of this. We want to see things move. And I understand where you're sitting, guys. That ever moved, been there, sat in that spot. And I understand that everything that you make changes the city for, life. It doesn't, council comes and goes every 2 years. But if you make it here, it stays. So, I mean, this is a very, very important, to me, it always was. Because it's the backbone of how this community is built.
Just a little bit more about what the changes in addition to restricting. It restricts parking, it restricts quantity of bed rooms that it can have. And it does also make it a conditional use for another community. Gives you as the adjoining property an opportunity to come before the court. Speak against it. That's where we are at the moment.
If you look at your planning, does it change the community? You could not answer no on that. It does change.
Well, and then there again, that's part of our thinking, is that gives us some control. We know folks in the city are renting their houses right now, but we don't have anything to protect the city and protect the neighbors against that. So this is a way we can, because we know it's going to happen, and it's going to happen more than not this.
What are we now? Like we're about 30% rentals. in the city now.
And you know that.
And I know that, but they're
With us
not.
being as close to the lake as we are and the popularity. This is going to become more, not less. So we know we gotta do something with it or, you know,
So you're gonna just.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I hope you understand with what we're trying to do is to give us, as the zoning and the board of adjustment, some control over the yes and no. Right now, we don't have. The city can't go to that person and say, you can't do that right now. Because it's not defined. So what we're trying to do is define it and put it under some, at least some guidelines where we've got some control over.
I mean, that's where we got,
Yeah.
just stating that. No. You know, you just. I couldn't move in there and open any business.
Right.
In that place where I come to see you guys.
Right.
And that would pass.
Right.
And any way you want to call it, that's a business.
Right.
Even a rental is a business.
Exactly.
There's only you got services. that come in there. It's supposed to be collected. So, you know, it's a business, any
Yeah.
way you want to show about it. Rental is a business.
Exactly right. We give it from.
That's- Yeah. Dave, you say what you want to say? You know, I was gonna say, I have our little, I have the plat things under deeds. Raise your right hand.
State your name,
Thank you, Bobby.
or Joe, or-
This just says, this is straight off the plat or whatever. the deed there. No noxious or offensive trade or activity shall be carried upon on any lot, nor shall anything be done there which may become an annoyance or a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Well, that's a covenant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't have any, we don't enforce covenants.
I know, you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, and again, my recommendation to you guys is you need to do exactly what you just said. You neighbors need to get together because it sounds like your subdivision covenant says, hey, you can't do that. Because it is offensive to the neighbors. But that's not our, we can't control that covenant. We don't regulate that. We don't control that. But your neighbors do. Yeah.
So at this point,
Yeah.
what I got last time was you're gonna, term overnight rental in, it's gonna be a bed and breakfast, if somebody asks now. He's still gonna get, you're gonna have to, he's gonna do a conditional use permit, you're gonna send him a notification, right?
For somebody to do that, they would have to come and get a conditional use permit to a bed and breakfast.
So he's in California, hasn't been here in 12 months, and he's got property managers, I mean, how do we? Does he just keep renting until finally somebody says, oh, hey, I need a permit, or y'all gonna send it, or he's gotta be notified?
Well, Greg, so he's already there before this. I don't know if I've got anything to do with that or not.
I mean, we can't.
I mean, I don't know if I've got any grounds. I'll have to talk to Greg to see, even if this goes, I'd have to see if I've got legal grounds to challenge that individual who's already doing that.
Yeah.
You know.
We're just curious because you know. It's gonna stop. So.
Yeah.
Well, does Ben Brett? Sorry.
We're not that far along. You're not sworn in.
Do bed and breakfast currently have,
Yes,
and you're already, so he's.
but he's not,
Well,
he's
saying
not
that-
defined as that yet.
That's where we see the problem is. There's a gap here between, because he's not serving breakfast. So he's not, in his mind, I don't have a bed and breakfast. Well, we recognize there's a hole here that we've got people doing things that we don't have it defined in our ordinances. So that's what we're trying to do, is define it, to put it under some guidelines so that we do have some control over it. And that's what we're gonna do is call these short-term rentals the same as a bed and breakfast.
And I'm not saying that I don't have, I'm just saying I don't know at this.
Yeah.
Not without speaking with Greg, because this is new. we haven't dealt with this. Somebody always asks for someone already there. We're trying to build something. So I don't know where our ground is legally to go ahead and address that individual. I have to get with him. So I'm not saying yes, we can or no, we can't. I just don't know. It's
And that's our concern, guys. I mean, we feel your pain and we know it, but that's why we feel like we gotta do something. I don't know that what we're doing is the all-inclusive best answer, but at least it's a step in the direction to address what we see can be potentially getting a bigger problem. Because
It will. I mean,
it's just like you said, well, they go, what do you say, 30% of houses are rentals in the city? Guess what?
The bad about it is it's.
Yes.
Buying,
Yes,
young people are not buying homes,
that's right.
they're renting.
Right.
And they go, and that's, we can turn around and tragedy, and the bad part about it is that we also don't have any of the code enforcement for the rentals.
Right.
All the next thing we're going will be the city of Sunrise.
Yeah.
And it just happens.
Yeah. Well, and what we see also is the fact that for the renter, these short-term rentals are much more profitable than a long-term rental. So we see that potential getting, again, increasing, not decreasing. Because, you make a whole lot more money by renting it by the night than you can rent it by 6 months.
I did 20 years for PagerLake.com, running tourism business. They used to use my website to find people who were renting their houses out to charge them the transient 3% tax for lodging. This guy essentially is not a transient lodger to the city. Do you guys
But it's more than that.
tax this? I mean,
Yeah.
there's other issues here. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's trash service, it's.
Yeah.
Residential, there's trash service, utility tax, that we're not collecting, it's not being
And it's a whole different level.
collected out.
I don't think that on even for city, there's a business running.
And then each one of the providers that's coming over there, you have your, city, you have your city payroll tax. Have they filed a form? Regular their payroll tax?
again, at this point, it's not defined. Once it's defined, then yes, it would be. But right now, it's not. And so we got a hole where they're making, they don't have anything like that right now.
One of the other things we've talked about is even the simple fact of the fire marshal verifying the property is for the occupancy capacity of the property itself, so that you don't end up with 14 people stuck in a 2-bedroom house.
They won't even.
That's not that's not our control, but that's an issue that we see could very well happen.
If you turn around and you did fire marshal, exit lighting, the stuff, it won't be there.
True.
What you got in.
Well,
in there.
that gets us back to the point of where we see we got to try to define it somehow, because it's happening and it's going to happen more, and it's a black hole right now, and we got nothing to say. We got no control over.
What you showed us, was that on flat or was it on the deed?
It's on our.
That's the big.
Great.
It's all the.
Okay. I'm gonna stop right there because I'm not an attorney and I can't give legal advice.
Well, even that, the problem is with anything. So it don't make a difference. But anyway, problem that you got on that in any code that's in there, it's every single one.
I don't think that's true. I think it is one. And that's, I'm not a realtor, but I have a mom that's 40 years back. She might tell you actually that person that you need to ask is a lawyer.
Right.
We did talk to a lawyer about it takes 100% signatures.
To get something changed.
We don't have an HOA over there. But
We don't have
want
an HOA.
But there are covenants on the deed, everything.
You have to turn around and you have to turn around, fight it legally and make a personal enemy of our
Well,
neighbor.
but if he's not here anymore.
They said, hey, remember this out. Talking to us about it.
We would we would have came and addressed it when we got, but it was already.
And that's what I say, it was after the fact, that we found out. That
As a member of the conditional, board of judgment, I can tell you that comments are appropriate. The next one that comes, we will look at different. We will consider definitely what you said about changing the picture in a subdivision situation. Now, if people sitting out here on 95, I assume that's a whole different
Where you use the traffic.
Right.
We don't have sidewalks. We don't have sidewalks. Where's the kids walking from house to house? They're restricted.
Well, and there again, and Darren is sits on that board of adjustment, and he would be the one granting that, or that committee granting that conditional use. So that then gives the city some control to say, no, that don't fit. Right now, we ain't got that.
We're just following the process.
Yeah.
We're just having a force of opinion, so you understand.
Yeah.
But it's not just, I don't like, it,
Yeah.
It's a total. We're just trying to let you-
We see the potential problems. And we trying to address it. That.
All the stuff we done.
Any other comments? The public hearing, frequently our meeting, first time of business will be approved. So moved. The business book would be the discussion, consideration of our recommendation for short term.
you mind changing the,
Go ahead. Okay.
go ahead and do it, Mr. Ms. Powell, give him a. We can do it.
Okay. Sure, we can do that.
I hate to keep them around. What it is Mr. and Ms. Powell live in a conservation zone. If you remember, they were here about their property on Apple. They got 4.99 acres, God bless them. Their original application came through the planning commission. The Planning commission gave full approval at that point here. They didn't send them anywhere else. They just did it here. This, again, is a conservation zone. Whether you want them to proceed this addition with the Board of Adjustments or whether you want to handle it yourself, that's again, your call, because you'll make the call on that. But they're wanting to expand their existing, they want to be outbuildings. And I think you've got a copy of the application and the site plan. Site plan is basically the same with the hashed area that's is the addition, proposed addition to it.
So you're adding the 24 by 30 addition to the shop.
45.
But Lindsay will be in it.
In that too, yeah, okay. But the hashed area is the proposed.
Yes.
This is still totally personal use, no business at all.
No indication of that either. And what's that? I'm not trying to, other than the fact that it's nice to clean that place up and make it look good.
We're still 206 foot off.
Yeah, we're right at the corner of it.
Basically, Apple and 10th Avenue intersect right there, just at their, basically their ground. And then that other access road is road going back to the, I think goes back, Steve Colby's property.
He's telling me on his days that it's an apple. And then y'all tell me it's his.
It's never been accepted. But it could be on an alley listed on there, but it's never been accepted to my knowledge.
Anybody have any issues with this? The motion we just looked at. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we allow them to proceed with this intervention of the board.
Motion by Darren, we have a second by Joel, all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed by like sign? Say you build your building. I'll have this ready to each copy. Thank you. Yes. You. All right, now let's go back to our building here. And I think, I mean, realistically, the only word, only change is 3.1. Where Greg basically put in the short-term rental will apply for bed and breakfast, and that's really the only change to that's the text change that's been made. Everything else is the word as it's legal.
Well, your recommendation is not gonna be the ordinance. The ordinance will be taken from your recommendation.
Right, but I mean, realistically, our recommendation is that we make that word change. That phrase.
It's basically.
Yeah.
Just tell me to find one thing, regular, bed and breakfast. Yeah.
That's really the only thing.
Airbnb's under the
Now,
term. bed and
you
breakfast.
guys do know that R1 through LU, that every one of them is allowing these by conditional use, right? Right. That I'm just bringing that to your attention, so I didn't know if you were aware of that or not. And where you were going, maybe that is something you want to consider, but you gotta start somewhere.
You gotta start somewhere.
And my take is I'm uncomfortable or nervous about the idea of whether or not we can actually do anything to an existing operation. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid that's the situation too.
Yeah.
That's why we jumped ahead on several other issues out there on, so we'll just, I'll just talk.
Kind of like, what 15 years ago, you can put a tattoo studio here, but it's in the industrial.
Well, sexually oriented businesses at we jumped ahead on sexually oriented businesses rather than waiting for somebody to come in and put one in because we didn't have anything to stop it.
Right.
And so we did that. And again, that's one of those things change over the years. So I'm not sure if that's going to be enforceable or not. But at least we have something to a conditional use of the word
Just
adjustment.
have something going forward.
That's correct. That's correct.
And again, I mean, I feel like they will only see one word.
Agree.
Yeah. We start getting started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just limit.
You all want
All right.
to.
Any questions about the regs?
We believe this is adequate for somebody to go to our ordinance. This terminology. If I'm thinking I'm gonna do an Airbnb and I go to the ordinance, to look for it, is this gonna be adequate for it to be down? You would hope so.
I would hope so. I think the VRBO is Airbnb. I think short-term rental is the term that we have to stick with because it really refers to both. It's more of a common.
And realistically, I mean, as long as you remember.
True, but again, like someone looking for, someone could do a word search on the ordinance itself and find short-term rental once we get this adopted and if the council adopts it, then if someone goes in and does a short or search on it, they'll see that short-term rental is played into the bed and breakfast. But that would be basic. It would be hard to find otherwise unless just by word search.
If this gets passed, and then we discover a third one that we didn't know about, is there a way to figure out where they in here? Yeah, are they grandfathered? Because that's what happened. Well, it's already, you know.
Well, that, again, that's the thing I'm saying. If they existed before
Well,
approval of the ordinance, which is 2 months off,
but
because it would take 2 readings of the ordinance to be approved. So you're talking 2 months.
And maybe somebody was thinking about it and then he starts doing it and he goes, oh, I didn't know there was ordinance. Well, I was already doing it. It's
Well, I mean, if I had someone,
you have to
if I
research.
had someone that could say otherwise, then it would be worth doing an investigation.
Yeah.
So, you know, produce records of when you started or whatever, you know, stuff like that. Have you had your inspections or whatever? I mean, yeah, I mean, it really depends on what they say versus what the neighbors say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that
Eight and the term and the grandfather's law. I'm grandfathered in.
you have before you it was they put together some for a recommendation, tentative recommendation based upon your approval or your decision to move forward with such. And if that is adequate to your thoughts, then you just need to do a vote to recommend.
You want to look at motion to accept and someone.
September City Planning Commission regarding an ordinance amending.
Therefore, we can work as we can expect that.
Chairman will sign that based on the vote. And if you don't mind, since this is a regular meeting, just let me read that and make sure that that is actually what you guys understood, okay? That way it's on, let me have that.
Essentially, we're adding a definition.
Yeah, I'm gonna just read the thing, just to make sure that that is correct. All right, the recommendation of the Calvert City Planning Commission regarding an ordinance amending Article 3.1 of the Calvert City zoning ordinance article for ordinance 2017-06 relating to the regulation of short-term rentals. The Calvert City Planning Commission held a public hearing upon the attached proposed ordinance amending Article 3.1 of the Calvert City zoning ordinance 2017-06 on the 21st day of August 2023, and hereby recommends the City Council its adoption. After conducting the required public hearing upon the proposed ordinance and after consideration of the proposed ordinance and lack of objection or other no, we do have public comment. So that amount would have to be changed. So this will not work as as it reads. So, so yeah, it would have to, this will have to go back to Greg. It's not going to go like this because we have had comment and that's got to be noted.
Yeah.
This will fly as it's written.
Yeah,
Objective.
this could be a thing.
Strongly encourage us to do something about it.
C-150.
So yeah, this will not, I'm sorry, guys. We'll take that. Greg will put something together and then we'll bring it back for your recommendation or your approval.
Well,
And if we need to, do you want to do a special call for this?
well,
Sure.
can't we just mark it up right now? That, rather might fight question of the month.
Probably let.
I would rather let Greg do that. Because he's gonna want to see what the comments were, so he can make a note of it.
Hit that mark there.
I've been down that road before and and make sure you covered your bases on that one, so. 'Cause no, it's just that they're approving the recommendation. The recommendation that we read is not correct. So we've got to adjust that. So we'll have to come back and read the final.
Okay.
they want to go that route, but it has not, it's not approved yet for actual recommendation. That way, not with that language.
And motion with-
Well, you wanna withdraw your motion.
Yes.
Okay, will you say, the man that seconded the actual motion, will you, all right, so to withdraw the motion at this time, until correction of language. All right, so unfortunately, we don't have the recommendation yet, we'll just bring it back, make sure it's correct, Greg's happy with it,
So
so.
the text change is okay.
Huh?
The actual definition change.
Yeah,
It's okay. But just to get everybody.
It's got to explain it.
Well, my point, make sure
Sure.
Greg understands that. That way, just this, the editing.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking this time.
Okay.
It's editing and everything.
No, they can't, they don't hold a hearing. If they wanted to open it up, I mean, that's not, I probably could do that, but that's not, they don't hold a public hearing. That's what your job is.
Greg will include.
That's the that's the whole point is he will include that information in that recommendation. So it's the recommendation, not the ordinance that you guys are, the recommending language. The ordinance was just a sample. And so he'll have to, it may not change that, but it will change the recommendations wording. I mean, you're still good to go.
Got anything else?
I have nothing else, no.
Anyone else? I have question on adjourned. One of those, or a second.